And now back to the dominant story of the week, the FBI director's firing and the fallout from it, with the analysis of Shields and Ponnuru. That's syndicated columnist Mark Shields and National Review senior editor Ramesh Ponnuru. David Brooks is away. And welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to both of you. So, Mark, any question that the president was within his authority to fire James Comey?
No, I mean, it was within his authority, Judy, but this was not amateur hour. This was incomprehensibly incompetent, inept amateur week, beginning and ending with the president. I mean, other people came out with eggs of all sorts on their faces. Everybody associated with them is diminished, sullied, stained in some way. But this was Donald Trump's total miscalculation. The man who made a national reputation by saying you're fired didn't have the decency to call the FBI director in person and publicly humiliated and embarrassed him by severing him, announcing it on cable television as he was speaking to FBI colleagues in Los Angeles. And he has thus ensured that this will be with us. The Russian investigation is now a permanent part of our political landscape. It will affect and influence and be an outline on the 2018 election and perhaps even beyond.
Total miscalculation, Ramesh?
The administration combined two of its hallmarks, reacting to these events with disorganized dishonesty. They began by saying that the firing was a response to the FBI director's handling of the Clinton email story and the analysis of that handling by the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. But by the end of the week, President Trump himself was saying it really wasn't about those things. He had made his decision before the memo, and the decision was really motivated by the fact that Comey wasn't shutting down the Russia investigation, the investigation into the administration and the campaign's ties to Russia, and thus exploded everything that people had been saying in the administration's defense earlier in the week.
And so, Mark, they have given several different explanations over the course of a few days. What do you believe was behind this?
Donald Trump. Judy, think about this. Robert Mueller was the predecessor at the FBI before James Comey. He was there from 2001 to 2013 under Presidents George W. Bush and President Barack Obama. I don't know how often they had dinner, or how often they met privately. But can you imagine Robert Mueller being asked by George W. Bush or Barack Obama, not once, not twice, but 3 times, am I the subject of a criminal investigation by your department, by your agency? It's unthinkable. I mean, this obviously he wants this to go away. President wants this whole investigation to go away, and he's guaranteed the following. James Comey was enormously popular among the FBI workers. He was somebody who was thoughtful and supportive of his employees and the colleagues, and they liked him, and he would take one for the team. He was willing to take criticism for the FBI. And in spite of the decision he made on Hillary Clinton and the handling of that, which a lot of people disagree with, he's guaranteed, Donald Trump has, that everybody associated with the FBI is going to make one more call, follow up on one more lead, and work 1 hour harder every day on the pursuit of this case. It's not going to go away. He's guaranteed that it's going to be pursued even more arduously, intensely, passionately, and professionally by the Bureau.
What do you see as a fallout, Ramesh?
Well, I think that this may be the beginning of an effort by the administration to push a lot of congressional Republicans somewhere they don't want to go. The prevailing line from Republicans, even those who are well disposed toward President Trump, has been, of course, the FBI and, of course, the Congressional Intelligence Committee investigations need to continue. What is coming out of Trump world right now is no, these investigations are an attempt to cast doubt on the legitimacy of Trump's presidency. It's a taxpayer-funded charade. If you believe that, then these things need to end. Is that something that congressional Republicans are really going to accept? That's not something that I think they're going to want to try to sell to the American people.
How do you see Congress moving on?
I think Congress is under enormous pressure now. The committees have to perform because any foot dragging on this at this point, at any point, the administration, the White House, will be seen as somehow hiding something, that there is something here to hide. I mean, the president boasting that 3 times you exculpated me in letters as I'm firing you. I think it puts pressure there. I think it guarantees that any appropriations by an investigating agency will be fast-lined and will be available. Nobody wants to be seen on that other side. Judy, there are 241 Republican House seats right now. And in 2018, they're all on the ballot. 175 of those members of the 241 have never run for re-election with a Republican president in the White House. They used to be on the offensive in midterm elections, running against, for repeal Obamacare, against the administration. They're going to have to decide, and a lot of them. They're looking right now at losing 36 House seats by historical standards. They have to decide right now, are they going to establish daylight and independence from this toxic administration? This administration this week was so absolutely misleading, dishonest in its handling of this, that the White House right now at this point doesn't even believe its own leaks. I mean, it's that bad. I mean, it's really reached that point. So if you're a Republican, you cannot be seen on the side of trying to slow this down, cover it up, hide things.
You do have to wonder whether the Senate is capable of confirming anybody to the FBI director position. If that person doesn't have a demonstrated record of independence and integrity, I think it's going to be very hard for them to get the requisite votes.
You don't think Rudy Giuliani is a good choice at this point?
There's a narrow Senate margin, and I think you're going to be not looking for political figures. I think you're going to be looking for people like Judge Silberman, people like Michael Chertoff, people who are respected across the aisle.
But Ramesh, what about Mark's larger point here that that this is really a turning point for this administration, a turning point in terms of how Congress sees the administration? We don't know yet about the public. I mean, we haven't seen any public opinion polls yet, significant ones. But what about the Congress?
Well, look, I do think that this story right now is a topic of consuming interest in Washington, D.C. I don't know that it is in the country at large. But I do think this is running the risk of isolating this president politically. There's a reason why congressional Republicans have not felt it was in their interest to just say these investigations are all illegitimate. There's a reason why the administration's first instinct was to come up with a pretext for dismissing Comey and not tie it to the Russia investigation. And so I think it's going to be really hard for them to sustain this, particularly when you consider that President Trump remains somebody who, for this early in his presidency, is pretty unpopular.
You mean because now it's out in the open that the rationale was the Russia investigation?
Right. And because Trump seems inclined to want to push this argument further, and he seems to want his surrogates to be making this argument.
So, Mark, have we learned something new about the president in all this? Is this the coming together of everything that we already believed? I mean, how do you see this moment?
Well, you see that the president thinks and acts in very short time frames. Judy, if you want to get rid of the FBI director, there's an established way of doing these things. You get a mutual friend to go to him and say, the president wants your resignation, and we'll do it on your terms, and we'll exchange letters, and there'll be a rose garden ceremony, and we'll introduce your successor, and you'll leave with a great tribute and great test. And it's done. Not Donald Trump. Either he's scared or anxious or whatever, but he had to do it in a hurry, and he did it his way. He did it to the point where he's totally discredited, if not disabled, his own press secretary, and he's totally discredited, or partially discredited, Mike Pence, his vice president, who his reputation is based on his earnestness and his decency, not on his great imagination or great vision, but he's a solid guy. He's a guy you can trust. He got caught in a total lie, pretending that Rod Rosenstein, 2 weeks on the job as Deputy Attorney General, somehow barreled into the White House and said, take this, Mr. President, you've got to do it. Now, think about Rod Rosenstein. What's he do? He's a man who's earned a reputation, a deserved reputation, bipartisan respect as being a straight shooter. He's been used as a pawn in this thing. He was advanced as the reason when he knew he wasn't the reason. And now he's got to prove his independence if he's going to be in charge of this investigation. So he's not going to be, no pressure can be applied to him. If it appears to be, again, it's going to redound to the detriment of the White House and the president.
I've seen some analysis this week, Ramesh, that people are watching moderate Republicans, especially in the Senate, to see how they react. What is their calculus? I mean, what do they look for as they decide how to respond to this and what to do?
Well, I think that they are going to be nervous. They're not going to want to go out on a limb and defend the administration, particularly when the line from the administration keeps changing. And you go out on a limb, the administration might saw that limb out right from behind you. The political pressures on them are going to be intense. They're going to want to look for ways to get out from those political pressures. And it could be that the end result of this is that it has strengthened the case for a special prosecutor, an independent commission, or a select committee of Congress.
And Mark said, I want to ask you, I think, Mark, you said, what, you think 3 dozen Republican
House seats right now are in jeopardy. Historically, president's under 50. This president's going to be under 40% favorable. Just to Ramesh's point is, I think, a very good one. It bears reflection on that. The idea, Judy, that the Wall Street Journal editorial page leads its endorsement of firing Comey by quoting the president had reacted to the Deputy Attorney General's initiative in doing it. And so they're supporting Donald Trump, and they've got egg all over there. They've got a poultry farm on their face. I mean, let's be honest about it. I mean, and have him say, how about being accused of being a showboat by Donald Trump? Now, that is tantamount to being called ugly by a frog. I mean, Donald Trump has never been a shrinking violet before. I didn't know grandstanding was a mortal sin in his lexicon.
What do you look for in the days to come to see where this goes, Ramesh?
I think I would start looking for the congressional Republican reactions. I don't think that a lot of people today have been very vocal in response to President Trump's tweeting about tapes of
and by the way, we don't know whether there's a recording system in the White House.
Right, but the question is, do they just try to ride this out, or do they start criticizing the president?
Mark?
I think, Judy, I think that it's going to be every man and every woman for him or herself, and they're going to realize that their fate, fortune, and future is not going to be well served being tied to this president.
Well, a week that won't be forgotten anytime soon. Mark Shields, Ramesh Ponnuru, thank you.